This episode of the Cork and Entertainment Show is brought to you by Black Box Prompter. Are you a musician tired of being tethered to your tablet or music stand? Do you long to connect with your audience on a deeper level, but find yourself constantly glancing down at your lyrics and chords? Then I highly recommend Black Box Prompter, the smart and stealthy lyrics and chords teleprompter designed to liberate musicians from the stage clutter. This innovative device is perfect for bands, hobbyists jamming out in the garage, touring pros rocking arenas, and even houses of worship looking to elevate their services. It discreetly displays your lyrics and chords, allowing you to maintain eye contact with your audience, adding an extra layer of authenticity and connection to your performance. Don't let distractions hold you back. Unleash your full potential and create a more powerful connection with your audience with Black Box Prompter. Click the link in our episode description and use the promo code Corcoran at checkout for 10% off your purchase. Black Box Prompter, the smart teleprompter built for musicians by musicians. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Corcoran Entertainment Show. I'm your host, Franky Corcoran. We all having a good week, good month, good spring. Happy April Fool's Day, everybody. Hopefully, if you have some pranks and stuff like that, hopefully they all go according to plan. And all that good stuff. Crazy to think that we're in April now, which is crazy. But new month, but that doesn't mean that there's not still plugs to be made for some local events going on here. First off, coming this weekend, we have I'm super excited to be taking part in the St. James and St. John United Church drama group is putting on the Mapleton Dynasty. A dessert theater on April 4th, 5th, and 6th, and I'm super excited to be taking part in that. It's a lot of fun. And, so tickets are $20, and they can be purchased at Dickinson's Pharmasafe, and it's highly encouraged that you buy them ahead of time because you don't want them to sell out. They always do sell out. So, great crew to work with, and it's a blast, and anybody listening locally, if you're in the area, definitely come on out. It's a great time. Get some good desserts and some quality entertainment. And so a blast to be a part of that group, and I'm super excited to be putting the show on. And so for the next one that I'm going to plug here, I had alluded to it last week, and now it is official. We're going on tour. Corcoran Entertainment's going on its first tour. With this, our Music Mania, our collaboration with Concertine Collective, the music and storytelling series. We're taking it on tour to different libraries. April 10th, we're in Campbellton. April 26th, we're in Dieppe. April 27th, we're in Moncton. May 3rd, we're in Bathurst and Miramichi. And then we're capping it off on May 17th in Edmundston. So I'm super excited for that. More details to come on locations and stuff like that. But we have the dates finalized and super excited to be part of that. Thank you to Arts MB for everything. And so there's that plugs, or those plugs for any of you local listeners out there. But if you're not a local listener and you're here for our guest, Danny Whitson, then let's get on with it, shall we? Danny Whitson, he is a multi-talented entertainer, magician, comedian, and he also hosted his very own podcast, Abracadam. And it was a lot of fun talking with him. It's I always say I don't talk to too many people who do magic and stuff. So last time we did was when we had the great Michael Campion on the show back, I think it was last winter, if I'm not mistaken. So great conversation, talk a lot about public embarrassments, dealing with drunk people in crowds and hecklers and all that good stuff. Later in the show, I'm going to give my thoughts on the Avengers Doomsday cast was just revealed. Give my thoughts on what I think about it, who wasn't there, who should have been there, and why are they there. So, and then also, we also have, speaking of casting news, Malcolm in the Middle casting news for the upcoming revival. Super excited for that still. So without further ado, guys, sit back, relax, and enjoy the podcast today. All right. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Corcoran Entertainment Show. I'm your host, Franky Corcoran, and today I'm joined by a magician, stand up comedian, actor. I don't talk to too many magicians, but it's always a blast to talk with them. Hopefully they don't do any tricks or anything like that on air and make me look like a fool. But I don't need much, I don't need a magician to make me feel like a fool because I already am one. Danny Whitson. Danny, what's going on?
Hey, thanks for having me on here, Frankie.
My pleasure, my pleasure. So, magician. I did talk to Michael Campion, who, of course, anybody listening knows him from Fuller House. He was on the show last year, and he's a magician as well too. But I don't talk to too many people who do that stuff. So, how long have you been doing magic? What got you started in it, and all that stuff?
Well, and let me just say off the bat, I don't talk to too many magicians either. So that's two of us. But
I mean, you see, all you got the actors, you got the musicians, and then what? So what do you do for a living? I do magic tricks. You're like, oh, you don't see too many
exactly.
people like that, you know?
It's always an awkward thing. That's the weirdest question because I always tell people I'm an entertainer, and then well, they look at me, and then they're like, "Please God, don't be a stripper." But but then I have to go in and I say, I'm a comedian slash magician. I put that slash in there, and it's always an awkward moment when you tell them that. But then you get the oh, okay. But every time you tell somebody you're a magician, their first assumption is that you're going to suck. And they're like, okay, Magic Boy, we'll prove it. And then you got to do a card trick, and then they assume that you're going to screw up, but then you wind up fooling their pants off, and then you become interesting. But no, the I've been doing. I started out performing magic. Gosh, man, it's over 20 years, and I started out. I wasn't one of these children that got a magic book when he was a child. My parents were poor. I didn't get a magician. We got a plumber for like my eighth birthday. It was horrible. Uh, but I didn't get into magic till later on. Probably about closer to my really early 19, 20 years old. And
Oh, okay.
so yeah, a little later. But for magicians, that's a late start. Most of the time, they get a magic book or something as a child. But anyways, yeah, caught the bug, got into it and started out street performing, busking on the streets, learning how to entertain, and then a few years of that, made my way into the comedy clubs and just kind of learned some stand-up comedy and then kind of blended the both and it just kind of just took off from there.
Oh wow, that's awesome. Like the thing that always would scare me, like if I were a magician, would be a matter of okay, making sure that the tricks that I'm gonna play that they play out exactly how they're supposed to. It's almost like I think a musician or a guitarist, like if you're performing in a band or even like theater performers, they would have that anxiety of hopefully I don't mess up a line or hopefully the lighting cues are on point and stuff like that. When you're doing magic, how difficult is it, or like what are the stresses and stuff that come with? I hope this lands. I hope that because also you're blending in magic with your comedy as well too. So how important is it to make sure that the jokes not just enhance the magic instead of detract from it? Like, are there any anxieties or fears that come with that?
Oh, absolutely. And here's the thing is I want to stress this is, in magic, there's so much to it that people really, you don't know until you're really in that world. That, I tell people, I spent an entire year standing in front of a mirror practicing one move so no one would ever know. And this is before I ever stepped in front of an audience. Now, think of the absurdity and how insane that is. Imagine practicing something to make it look like you've never done nothing. I mean, it's really insane when you think about it. And this is way before I ever stepped in front of my first audience. But it wasn't till I got the guts And that's what it took. It took the guts. You roll out on the street and you saw other street performers, gathering a crowd. And there's an old saying that if you can perform on the streets, you can perform anywhere. And that is absolutely the truth. Because when busking, and this is for any busker, you have to get an audience to stop, care about what you're doing, and then hang around and pay you afterwards. So, I was at the point to where I was comfortable with the sleight of hand and the tricks that I was doing, but then I had to learn how to be engaging and entertaining. And you would go out on the streets, and that's, one of the best places to conquer the nerves and conquer these things. And yes, if you screw up, I mean, yeah, they're going to look at you and be like, oh, this guy's horrible, or they're going to laugh at you. But being an entertainer in this type of field, I mean, you got to let that stuff just bounce off of you. And and yes, I have screwed up and I had those things happen in the early days. And, but it kind of builds, like the old saying says, it builds character.
Yeah, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
It's the
And
truth.
sometimes, do you agree with a thing that or that it's I'm not even sure where I heard it. Maybe I'm even making it up. That everyone should be embarrassed or humiliated at least once in their life. I don't know. Maybe I'm making that saying up, but I feel like I heard that somewhere. But as an entertainer, do you think there's any truth to that? Yeah,
Absolutely.
okay, that's perfect. I feel
100.
like I heard that somewhere in a Hallmark card or something. God only knows, but
I
it's true.
always I always tell this story. I always tell this story. But okay, first, I mean, dude, I'm tough love on this too, man. I'm sorry, and I try not to be because sometimes I can be a little too tough on that because okay, I learned a lot on busking. Really, I did. I've learned a whole lot because interacting with people, and you got people that'll shout out, and you have to learn to be quick on your toes and with these lines and at practice you get good at it, over time. But I'll never forget whenever I transitioned from, doing street shows into the comedy clubs, I showed up first as the magician and I'm around all these stand-up comics and they're kind of looking at me like, well, who's the prop act? And I eventually I learned that if I wanted to learn stand-up comedy, I would have to put the tricks down. So there was a period of, my home club at the time, doesn't even exist anymore. That's how old I am, I feel now. But at the time, I would show up to the open mics and I would write my jokes and eventually, I got to where I was one of the house MCs. So I could, MC a lot of shows. And that was kind of like comedy college for me. And well, I mean, nothing against magic, but at the moment I had put magic away so I could learn stand-up comedy because that's the only way you can learn stand-up comedy. You can't, I mean, no offense to any other acts out there, but you can't do it behind a guitar, you can't do it behind a puppet, you can't that you're not going to truly learn stand-up. Stand-up is about up there bearing your soul and your thoughts in a microphone. That's what it's about. So, I'll never forget, Frankie, the first time I ever really truly bombed. Now, I've messed up a magic trick in front of people and moved on and stuff like this, but to truly bomb in front of a packed house, and you just have to stand up there and do your time. It was a show. It was called a bringer show. Have you ever heard of bringer shows? In comedy, that's where you got to bring so many people to be on the show. It's a crap show,
Oh,
but
okay.
a lot of comics have to do these kind of shows in the early days. All of them have done bringer shows. And well, anyways, it was called the Giggle Before You Gobble show, which that's already horrible. The night before Thanksgiving, no one's
Wait, what is it again? The giggle before you goggle or gobble?
yeah, it was the giggle before you gobble. And I remember there was like 11 comics on this show. And, I was feeling a little good for myself. I was about, a little bit of almost a year into doing just stand up. So I, and I remember it was, some people had done good, some people had so-so. And I just remember going up and I was telling my stupid little jokes and crickets. I mean, it was bad, dude. It was so bad the crickets were walking. They were like, screw this. I mean, it was horrible. And the whole time I'm doing this, man, the whole time I'm doing this, now this is what was going through my head. I was thinking, I can entertain you people. I can reach out here in my back pocket and pull out a deck of cards, and I will save myself from this. But I knew if I did that, I would not learn anything. So I stood up there the rest of my time, didn't get a single laugh. And I remember just that was the longest drive home of my life, and it hurt so bad. It was just I'd never been rejected that bad. And you got to remember, I'm used to coming, I'm doing magic tricks on the streets. Oh, they love that. And then you get here, and then boom, you're not as funny as you thought you were, dude. You know. So this is my point to that. Everyone should be humiliated because the one thing that comedians have that a lot of people do not have in this world is comedians have true self-awareness. And the reason why is because they have stood on stage and they have bombed and they have felt rejection like no one has ever felt rejection before. So they're very aware that they're short. They're very aware that they're fat. They're very aware of all these things that a lot of people walk around and they kind of cover up, with something else. So, and there's strength in that. There's strength in being self-aware. Because I think once you are truly self-aware with yourself, you can start to solve some of your problems.
Right. Right. I'm just I'm just putting myself in your shoes for that whole situation. I mean, back
It is
then
hilarious.
it's hilarious to look on it, but in that moment, did you say maybe I chose the wrong path?
Oh,
Like, yeah, like this is it. I shouldn't have done this, you know?
absolutely, dude. I was like, oh, I mean, dude, it was the worst. Oh my God. And see, when you get done, you walk that path, and there's so much to comedy as well. Is like, even you never forget that night. You never forget that night. But I came back. I want to say, I think magic also played a big part in me getting back up and dusting myself off too. But in those early days, man, I call it comedy college. I remember emceeing shows, and at the end of the show, I would stand at the back showroom door as everyone was leaving, just praying to God someone would look at me and say, "Oh, you were funny too." But it's so many times I just walk right past because the point to a true headliner is that headliner is going to go up there and kill it so bad that you're going to forget everything you ever saw before them. You know what I mean? That's what a real true headliner will do. And so many times that happened. It doesn't matter how well I did as an MC or an opener. The headliner went up there and just crushed it. And they didn't even remember who I was. But it's just stuff like that you learn over time. You know what I mean?
Right. Like, were you humble enough back then to realize like okay, so they're here for the headliner. They're here for the main event. They're not here for me necessarily. I mean, like, were you humble enough to at least understand that, okay, even if they don't give me the attention or the appreciation that maybe I feel like I would like to have, were you at least level-headed enough back then to know, like, okay, it's fine. They were here to see so and so. I was just kind of, I was uh not to be forgotten, but I was
Oh
not
yeah.
the main attraction. Like, were you humble enough to accept that?
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, I was just first of all, I was thrilled to be where I was at and to get the opportunity, and then you get a paycheck, and I mean, it wasn't much money, but you're like, I can't believe someone paid me to tell these jokes, you know, and that's when you get that first little tiny paycheck, I mean, like I said, it wasn't much, but you're still like, I can't believe this happened. uh, it makes you feel like that you're on your way. And one of the things I think, a lot of comics go through this is, you you bomb so much that, and you are so self-aware, you're like, am I ready to move to that next step? I don't know. I'm terrified to, am I ready? But luckily there's so much camaraderie in the, and you get around good headliners, or mentors who will tell you things and kind of coach you along. It helps out a lot, and that's in comedy and magic. So lucky for those people out there willing to help the newbies.
The Corkin Entertainment Show is brought to you by Podmatch, the ultimate platform designed to connect podcast hosts with prospective guests effortlessly. Are you a podcaster looking to elevate your show to new heights? Or perhaps you're a guest hoping to share your story with a broader audience. Whatever your podcasting goals are, we have the perfect solution for you. Podmatch simplifies the entire process of discovering guests for your show or finding podcasts to feature your expertise. Now imagine a platform where you can easily match with like-minded creators tailored specifically to your niche. With Podmatch, you can effortlessly network with influencers and thought leaders, all while staying true to your podcast vision. There are a multitude of ways that Podmatch can help you grow your brand. You can be part of a thriving community of podcasters and potential guests. Engage, collaborate, and grow together. If you're ready to experience these fantastic benefits for yourself, we invite you to join Podmatch today. Head over to www.joinpodmatch.com/Corkin Entertainment and sign up right now for only $6 a month. That's right, you heard me right, $6 a month. Join the Podmatch family today and watch your podcast soar to new altitudes. Thank you for tuning into the Corkin Entertainment Show, and happy podcasting. Yeah, like that's good. And when they don't put their ego before helping others, like, oh geez, I'm too good to help that guy. Like, who does he think he is, you know? Having people who are in your corner, who are great at what they do, uh, it's always humbling, and it really really means the world, because you can look at that years later and go, oh crap, that person could have been the next me. That person could have done so many great things. Whenever you look at like where you started versus now, do you kind of are you trying your best to put yourself in the newbies perspectives, where someone goes up and they bomb and everyone might be laughing, but you having done that, I'm sure, is there a little bit of like, no, it's fine, I get it, I get where he's coming from, and then you're able to sympathize with them? How do you kind of view it all now that you've been in the game for what, 20 years or so, you said?
Yeah, it's been a while. It's okay if anybody ever comes to me with advice, I always give them, the best advice from, what I've learned. A lot of the younger comics and stuff out there, I say kids, but people now are, and kids now, and the younger, they're used to kind of paving your own path is now a more common thing. There's not as many gatekeepers as there was when I was starting out. And people have, methods of like, hey, I'm going to do what I want. I'm going to do this. I'm going to be a comic. I'm going to, figure this out, and comedy's crammed in our face constant with social media and apps and stuff. So, um, and I've had some surprise advice. I mean, had some surprise compliments from comics starting out, how I inspired them to try it, to do this and do these things, and it makes you feel really good. And um the but yeah, absolutely, I'm there for any advice if any of them ask. A lot of times I don't like to pile my advice on to people. Like I was doing a show, this is probably just a couple months ago, and sometimes like clubs will have like guest spots for their best open micer, on Thursday night. Okay, you did good. We're going to give you a guest spot on the weekend show. So a comic will go up there and do 3 or 4 minutes, and most of the time it's god awful. But sometimes, somebody will go up there, we can get some laughs. But this was, and it's comical, man. And you got to remember, it's not that we're being jerks. It's just that we've been in their shoes before. You know what I'm saying? So you're in the green room, and you see them, they're talking. You can see how nervous they are, and they're writing their jokes down, and you can tell they're terrified. And And in my situation, when I've ever done a guest spot, I'm always wanting to make sure I look good in front of the headliner so he'll like me or she'll like me or you know what I'm saying? And seeing them go through the same thing, and I just tell myself the advice. I say, look, just have fun. Okay?
Mm.
So that's what I tell them, I'm like, just go up there and have fun, So and sometimes they go up there and it's god awful if they bomb and it's okay, but that's just part of their process. You know what I mean? And that's all. And the thing that's funny is like, what they're going through, how they feel, but you also know it's going to be okay.
Right. And I think there's a couple different ways that you could describe what a bomb is in terms of not a live bomb. For those of you people, I can tell you what that is. A bomb in terms of like, I always talk about how it's the artist. Every artist has the mentality of if, let's say, you're doing like 5 shows a night of the same show. Like, let's say you're doing a play, and the third night, like first night was top tier energy, second night was just as good, third night the energy might have dipped a little bit, and in your mind you call that a bomb just because in your mind you're like, I did it so much better the first 2 nights. I was terrible tonight. I'm absolutely horrible. Blah 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 blah. And I think a majority of that is, like I said, it's the artist mentality of if it's not good as what I last did, then it's terrible. I shouldn't have done it. How do you kind of view keeping like trying to top everything you do? Like, do you always is it always a goal to make sure that you top everything that you do in terms of quality, in terms of humor? Because I mean, sometimes it's hard. And then how do you take that afterwards if you go, okay, this wasn't my best, but I'm not going to let that drag me
Oh
down? Like,
yeah.
how do you kind of deal with that?
The okay, well, and see, performing it's not riding a bike; it's a muscle. So you have to stay in what's called, I mean, if you're a performer, you have to be in performing shape. So, and to me, I have, and this isn't bragging or anything, but when you do it so long, you're going to go out to an audience and you've seen almost every single audience you can be in front of. And in the early days, okay, when you're first starting out as a performer, it's not the audience's fault. Okay, when you suck, it's not the audience's fault. It's your fault. 99% of the time, it's going to be your fault. Now, after a long period of time of performing and you actually get good at it, you do realize there's such things as fantastic audiences and bad audiences, and then audiences to where you have to work. And a saying that I always say is like sometimes it's work and sometimes it's fun, but the key is the audience isn't going to know which is which. So there's times like if I'm out of performance shape and which you can tell you can tell the difference whenever you're working constantly and you're just at the top of your game and you could walk in front of a graveyard and you would wake the dead. Your show's so hot. And then you can tell if you've been, took some time off, you got a little bit of rust, and you go out there. Now, granted, like I said, I've been doing this so long, the audience isn't really going to know, but I pick up on these things. So, what I try to do, if I make stupid little mistakes, and like I said, the audience doesn't pick up on it, I do. I go back and I'm like, okay, Danny, you probably should have went over this first before even doing it as long as I've been doing it now. Um, and there's times whenever it's kind of hard to explain about how what you want to top. It's like um there's times I've felt the energy of a room, and it's just a great room, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go out here and really smash it. These people really truly deserve it. Not saying that I don't try to give my best every show, but sometimes you just see those opportunities and you're like, okay, we're gonna set this place on fire.
Like the audience is laughing, everybody's cheering. You just want to, like,
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I mean, I get the I look at, I mean, I do look at every show that way. Truly, I do. And sometimes like you'll run into shows and you're like, well, this is work. And what was the because also, not only do I do public shows, I do a lot of private shows too. And a lot of private shows, if you do a corporate show, private show, you're coming in cold. And they've had no opener. They've had nothing funny said to them. And all of a sudden, boom, there you are. And I compare my show's very high energy. It's a very high energy in your face show. And I'll hop up and I picture like, walking in and just punching them right in the mouth with some laughs and magic and bam, baby, we're on a crazy ride. So I try to treat every audience that way, but sometimes, like I said, if they're a cold audience at first, within about my goal is within the first 5 minutes to have them on my side. So, uh, and normally that's normally how it goes, so but that stuff like that is Frankie, it's called like reading a room, and that's things that you can only really learn over time is how to truly read a room.
Yeah, exactly. Like understand where the audience or like what they're laughing at. And if you have jokes coming up that are maybe not exactly the same, but you have jokes that are in similar taste to
Mhm.
what they're not laughing at, it's like, okay, maybe I shouldn't do that. Maybe I should try something else, you know? So reading the room is everything. But if they're laughing at absolutely everything you do, then that's you know, use your ability to read the room and just go for the laughs, just go for the punches, you know, like just do
Absolutely.
everything you can, you know.
And I call that
And
a fun show. That's the fun show. The show, okay, the fun shows is when the opener went up, got them warmed up, and you say you got an opener, but I mean, they open it up, and you can kind of tell what kind of audience you're looking at just by your opener. But even if you don't have an opener, you go in there and they're just ready to have a good time, and you're like, all right, dude, we're going to do this, and really, regardless, no matter what you say, they're going to laugh at, have a great time, have fun, and those are the fun shows. So yeah, and which they makes reading the room much more easier.
if they're drunk, they'll laugh at anything. That's, you
Oh yeah,
know,
yeah.
like that's
We, I got a bit, I always say, there's not much difference, performing for drunks or performing for kids. You never know what they're gonna say, and you're never surprised when they crap their pants. So, and that's God's honest truth. But yeah, drunks. Trust me, I've got a lot of stories about drunks.
oh yes, tell me about them.
Oh man, I mean, it's I mean, people a lot of times people talk about hecklers and a lot of stuff like that and luckily I don't get heckled much, but every now and then it'll happen and you will have to, there's not one formula. No matter, don't let anyone ever tell you there's one formula how to deal with a heckler. Each situation is unique, your goal, is to entertain, so you make entertainment out of it, and then eventually, after a while, you can shut it down. If it's a real true moron, you don't want to go too far with them, but you kind of want to put them in their place, kind of, let them know you don't want it to ruin the show. Um, but yeah, just the stories about drunks. Oh man, this was probably one of the craziest ones, but it's a little, it could be a little blue. I don't know what the rating is here.
Oh, go
Here,
ahead. Yeah, we're R rated.
dude, this guy was so drunk, and it was and first of all, now keep in mind, as a magician, this is also something that in magic that you learn is you choose volunteers to come up on stage, and you have to be you get it's a skill actually to try to pick the best volunteers you can. You never pick the guy who is waving his hand, or the lady who can't wait to come up on stage. She's like, I want to screw you up, magic boy, please pick me. And then you don't want to pick the person who is terrified either. You don't want them to go to have to be stuck in therapy because they came to your show. So you want to pick the person who's kind of indecisive. I don't know. Well, this was gosh, dude, this was. probably 10 years ago, man. But it was a New Year's Eve show, which I hate doing. First of all, I shouldn't say that on air that I hate doing New Year's Eve show because I work every New Year's Eve.
Yeah. Bookers will hear that and go, "Oh,
Please,
I'm not hiring him this year."
please book me. But no, New Year's Eve is like amateur night, and for drunks. You know what I'm saying? And but I'll never forget it was a New Year's Eve show. And God, this guy just he made the biggest idiot of himself. I was doing this routine, and now keep in mind, man, I'm not taking the high road of dignity here with this particular act, but this particular act involved a instead of a magic wand, I bring the guy up and he's supposed to wave the magic wand over this thing, and it's this ongoing joke, and he is plastered. I mean, I could just see it. When he came up, I was like, oh man, I've really screwed up with this one. I'm gonna have to work to manage this dope on stage. And but I am having some fun. I'm getting some comedy out of it because he's just pissed drunk. And there's a part in this particular routine that I did back then. I don't even do this anymore, but as I go to hand him a magic wand, I pull out this giant dildo. And he just grabs the dildo, and he's holding it up here. People are laughing. He's getting ready to wave the dildo, and I turn my back from him to talk to the other person, and then as I turn around, the guy is sniffing the dildo, and I mean, and just pause for a minute. I was like, "This is what are you doing, dude?" There for a moment, I don't think, and then he realized once again he was so drunk, but then you could tell the look of, oh my, oh shit.
Whoops.
I'm on stage in front of all 300 people sniffing a dildo. There for a minute, I thought I was alone in my sister's house. I mean, come on. I mean, so you just saw the humiliation on this dude's. I feel bad for him. I was like, dude, but of course you can't have a guy on stage sniffing a dildo and not address it. So poor guy. Maybe, anyways, I think I had about 10 minutes material just on that alone that night, and I'm pretty sure he probably quit drinking after that. So I think I saved his life.
He'd end up like
I mean,
he'd end up in jail or something. That Danny, you saved his life. You saved
that's
his
where
life.
with the
Public
dildos.
embarrassments can save your life, really.
Absolutely, folks. Absolutely. But no, I've had people I've brought a girl on stage one time and with a routine, and she was tipsy, really drunk, and flashed her boobs behind me to the whole audience. They all got to see boobies, which, I was like, "Whoa, take it easy. Can't compete with that." So, but yeah, there's been so many I have probably forgotten. It's fun though, fun times.
Oh, always. Oh, it's so good. That's just fantastic. And just especially when you're playing up for laughs, it's like you can't not address it. You know what I mean? Like
Exactly.
it's like how do you not address stuff like that? It's just so funny. My God, like there's
The elephant in the room is something that's my favorite. And I know like now a big thing in comedy is, crowd work, crowd work, crowd work. And, I do crowd work, but I don't, it's not my act. Just out of, I love interacting with the audience and the people. And when you do see a moment, that you have to address, that you have to call out, it's like, thank you, magic Jesus. You know. And I know
magic.
I've had so many moments of that too, but I wish I could. Oh, I cannot. I can't. As far as on the comedy side, I know there's been so many that I've forgotten. I in magic. These opportunities happen sometimes, which I love it when it does happen. Um, it's like sometimes, okay, you need certain things to take place for you to be able to pull the trick off, for the trick, for the routine to go the way you want it to go. And there's this one routine that I do that involves I'll go ahead and tell the routine, but basically a spectator comes up and picks a card, and they shuffle the cards, and then they hand it to me, and I drop the cards, and then out comes a sex robot, an AKA Roomba, and goes around the room, goes over the cards. I pick up the Roomba, open up the dust trap, and inside the dust trap is their signed card. Voila. Great trick. You need to come to Danny Witz at Magic and Comedy, folks, and see the show. But anyways, in that routine, I'm going to spill a little secret here. The cards have to be dropped. Okay, the trick won't work if you don't drop the whole deck. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I'll never forget, doing this routine, and I handed it to the lady, and once again, she was drunk. And I always try to find somebody a little tipsy. And as she was handing it to me, she just drops all the cards herself.
Oh, damn it.
And I was like, oh, exactly. But I'm like, thank you. Because now I don't have to, you know what I'm saying? I mean, this looks great. This couldn't have played out any more perfect.
The drunker
So
they are, the better. Is that it?
absolutely, absolutely. Just don't throw up. But it was so those moments happen, man. And same thing in comedy. You address the elephant in the room, and then you just got to run with it.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a, and you go into it expecting that with these types of crowds and stuff. Like if you're a band or you're a comedian and you're looking to go perform at a bar at like what like 1 o'clock 2 o'clock in the morning, and you are like, oh my god, these people are too loud, blah blah blah. Well, guess what, you're in the wrong spot because this is just what people do.
Absolutely.
Like it's so if you can't handle that, then okay, go perform at, I don't know, just at the bingo hall, for the seniors or something.
And I mean, it's you definitely, you learn these things, as you go. And but you see the little opportunities too with people interacting. And I love interacting with people. I do. I love it. So it's another part of my act that I really enjoy.
Yeah, like that's and building that connection, so it's not just, oh, it's just some guy who's just making us laugh on stage. No, like you feel that connection, and then
Absolutely.
like you want that from people, and that's why it can be oftentimes difficult to relate with actors and stuff like that, because if you just see them just on screen as this one character, it's like, okay, that's one thing, but actually with a comedian who's telling stories about like their family and stuff like that, and they're talking to the audience and performing as themselves, there's just that level of authenticity to the performance where it's like, okay, this isn't a character, this is a real person telling his story about what his wife did or what his father did. Just kind of builds that connection. But Danny, there's a lot that you've done, and it's just absolutely very very excited for you and all the stuff that you've done. I mean, first off, I just want to say this right here. Danny helped set a Guinness World Record for the longest running comedy show. And which comedy show was this again? Sorry.
This was I was lucky to be a part to get to participate in this, and it was super exciting. This was the oh my gosh, it was in Nashville, and the I believe it was Chad Ryden and oh my gosh, Buckley. I'm trying to think of his last name. I'm so sorry. It's been a little while. But Chad Ryden and some fantastic Nashville comedians came up with the craziest idea that they were gonna have the longest running comedy show. And it's so a lot of comics, I mean big stars, you name it, everybody got to participate, but it was like a week long nonstop comedy show. It never stopped.
Right.
So that was the whole goal, that it could not stop. It had to keep going. And I even think there was rules like no one could bomb. They had to have so many, had to be laughs, continuing laughs. And we wind up breaking the record. And like I said, I was just, thrilled to be able to participate, to go up and do some time to help them reach their goal of the, longest running comedy show in the Guinness World Record. So
Like
really
that's
cool.
Fantastic. That's fantastic, man. Like that's so awesome. And going from and after that first public humiliation, you could have stopped. You could have
Oh yeah.
stopped, but you didn't. And look at what you've done. And I think that's inspiring, really, to look at. And I applaud you for that, and congrats on all of your success. What can you tell us about any upcoming gigs or any upcoming, or like where people can find you on social media and all that stuff?
Absolutely. Well, the cool thing is I want to plug this because I feel like I haven't plugged this near enough. The I do have a comedy magic album out on streaming that you can go check out. And now I'm going to be honest with you, it's something that you've never heard anything like it because it has clips of my stand up. It has interactive magic tricks that you can do as you listen. And it has sketches that I've written. So, sketch comedy that I've written, magic tricks, and stand-up clips, and it's all audio. So I don't know if, I will say an inspiration to it was, and some people may remember this, but the old school Adam Sandler audio album that came out in the 90s, They're All Gonna Laugh at You, was a big, I always wanted to do something sort of like what he did. But I did a comedy magic album. So, like I said, it's got clips of my stand up, it's got interactive magic tricks that you can do, and it's got original sketches written by me. And it's called Dirty Tricks. And it's called Dirty Tricks for a reason, kids and moms. So, you probably wouldn't enjoy it if you're not 18 and up. You know what I mean? But, but yeah, kind of cool thing. Dirty Tricks streaming on Spotify, Apple, wherever. Check it out, give it a listen, and when you get time, grab your deck of cards and fool yourself. Also, I've got another huge project that I'm working on, Frankie, and I haven't really announced it yet, but I'm actually producing and filming a my very own feature film. And
Ooh.
that will be out on streaming once we get things finished up and wrapped up with that. But that's a big project that's taking up a lot of my time right now. So I'm not currently on the road. I don't know how many listeners you have probably closer to my neck of the woods, but have you ever heard of Gatlinburg, Tennessee?
Gatlinburg, Tennessee. I don't think so. Tennessee, I've definitely heard of though.
Gotcha, gotcha, fantastic. Now you're from Canada, right? You're
Canada,
Canadian.
yep. New
Okay,
Brunswick.
okay. The that's where my podcast the podcast that I host is out of. So let me give that a quick plug. The Beyond the Tinfoil Hat is streams live every Tuesday on YouTube at 7 p.m. and it's a paranormal type podcast. So if you're into the paranormal stuff, they pay me to host the show, and I enjoy talking to you guys and having a good time with that. And that's actually that's a podcast out of Canada. So,
Ooh,
a lot of Canadian people pop on there. So I love Canadians. And
thank you. I didn't pay him to say that.
really, I did. Hey, man, Kevin McDonald from Kids in the Hall,
Yes, you worked with him too. That's
yeah,
right.
absolutely, absolutely. It's so many great magicians and comedians out of Canada, by the way, folks. I want to tell you real quick, greatest close-up magician ever lived was Canadian, Di Vernon. Go look it up, look your homework, and the list of funny people out of Canada. Come on, we know that. But
Trailer Park
anyways,
Boys, you know.
so many. But yeah, you guys give me a follow on Instagram at Super Magic Boy on Instagram. I do post where I'm going to be. I haven't made it up to Canada yet, but I would love to get up there. There's a lot of talk about me getting up there. And then on Facebook, Danny Whitson Magic and Comedy. Give me a follow there. That's Whitson with a Whitson. And check out Dirty Tricks on Spotify, Apple, wherever it is you listen to music at all. Check that out. And I would love to come back on, Frankie, when the movie comes out. Give that a
Oh my
plug.
God, yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Shoot me an email, whatever, and we will set it up because I mean, like there's so much that we can talk about. We haven't even scratched the bottom of the barrel of stuff that you've done. So, there's stuff. Consider this part 2 or part 1 of the interview. Guys, we are going to take a short break. We will be right back. But until then, this is Frankie and Danny Whitson signing off. Cheers, Danny. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Cork and Entertainment Show. That was me and Danny Whitson. Guys, be sure to check out his website, DannyWhitsonMagic.com, or follow him on Instagram at SuperMagicBoy or at SuperMagicBoy. Thank you again, Danny, for coming on. It was a blast, and definitely we're going to stay in touch. As mentioned on the podcast, we're going to stay in touch and do it again. So moving on to our solo segments today, we got a big one. We got a big one here. We got the cast for Avengers Doomsday, and there were a lot of surprises and a lot of ones that were like, okay, that was kind of a given. And then there were some that we never really, it was like, okay, they're not on. That was very, very surprising. So I was just going to go through them and give my thoughts on them, and might not give my thoughts on like each individual one, but I'll kind of just give my thoughts if there's one that really, really stands out to me. But first off, I just want to say the way it was announced was kind of weird. I think they would have been better off just doing a event or something where they just listed off everybody instead of doing what they did. Basically, what they did was, for those of you guys, I mean, I think everybody's seen it. I just read an article today where it said it got in total like 275 million views. But basically it was just Avengers Doomsday is now in production, and it showed all like the director's chairs or that the actors will sit on, and it had all of their names, all of the actors' names on the back of the chair. So like every hour, every like 20 minutes or so, it would show a new cast member. So it started off with like Chris Hemsworth, and then 10 minutes later, Anthony Mackie, so on and so forth. So that went on for about 5 hours. And I will say it did work to get people hyped because people obviously were very, very interested in it. But I just think there was another way that they could have done that. I mean, just going about it the way they were, going on for like hours. But whatever, it is what it is. It's not like it didn't ruin it or anything like that. For me, it was just kind of like a really, that's one way to do it. But regardless, we have the cast for Avengers Doomsday. We were talking for a while who we think could be in it, who might be in it, who might not be in it. But now here we are. We have the cast. First and foremost, he was revealed last, which is one that we already knew, was Robert Downey Jr. as Victor Von Doom, Dr. Doom, which has me... I'm warming up to it now, I'll be honest. I still think it's one of those decisions where I just think they should have went the traditional route and don't put the actor before the character. That's my problem with it. Whenever I say I have a problem with it, people mistake that for they don't think that I believe Robert Downey Jr. can do it justice. I 100% think he can do it justice. I really, really do. I mean, Oscar-nominated actor, Robert Downey Jr. is remarkable. I think he'll do a great job as Doom. But whereas we had him for all these films as Tony Stark, I just really think they should have went the other way, and now it feels like they're putting the actor before the character. So that's just my thoughts on it. And I know multiverse and this and that, there's ways that it could work. But if it were up to me, I really think they should have just went the traditional Doom. But anyway, it is what it is. They're filming the movie now, and Robert Downey Jr. is our Doom, and I'm sure he's going to do a terrific job. So going down the list, now this isn't by order of like who was announced or anything like that. This is kind of just all a big list of them. So number one, or well, I'm not even gonna number them because it's an ensemble. There's not really a number one on the call sheet. If there is, I guess it'd be Robert Downey Jr. as Doom. But Anthony Mackie is back as Sam Wilson, Captain America, which that was expected. I mean, I think we all assumed that he was going to be back in it, and of course he is, and so I'm super excited to see that. And I still have yet to see Brave New World. I haven't checked it out yet, and call me a fake Marvel fan, whatever. But I just haven't gotten around to it. But anyways, it is what it is. So who do we have? Oh, sorry, I just exited my thing. There we go. Next up, we have, of course, Chris Hemsworth is back as Thor. That was also a given too. I think we fully expected Chris Hemsworth to be back. We have Vanessa Kirby as Susan Storm, which Fantastic Four. We're getting the Fantastic Four movie. It's in the MCU now, so that was also kind of expected. Paul Rudd as Ant-Man. That's great to hear. Florence Pugh will be returning from Black Widow as Yelena, which is really, really exciting. Wyatt Russell as John Walker from Falcon and Winter Soldier. Namor. Now, the actor's name, I mispronounce it all the time. Tenoch Huerta Mejia. I think that's how you say it. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. But he's coming back as Namor. I'm excited for that. Shang-Chi. We're getting Shang-Chi, Similau. And people are probably hearing this going, "Oh, you're butchering the names." I'm sorry. I'm outright admitting that I don't know these names as well. Oh God, I don't know why this keeps on backing out. I don't memorize these off the top of my head. Here we go. Sebastian Stan is back as Bucky Barnes. I was kind of expecting that. I'll be honest. There was a point where I didn't know if he was coming back. I don't know why I thought that, but we have confirmation that he is. Letitia Wright, Shuri, Black Panther, is coming back. Ebon Moss Backrack, who of course is playing the Thing in Fantastic Four. He will be appearing in this. Kelsey Grammer as Dr. McCoy, or Beast. That shocked me. That really, really shocked me. That we have that. Louis Pullman as Sentry. Danny Ramirez as Joaquin Torres / Falcon. Joseph Quinn as Johnny Storm, David Harbour as Red Guardian, Winston Duke, McBaku, Hannah John Common as Ghost, and this one really surprised me too. Tom Hiddleston's coming back as Loki. I really didn't think he was going to come back. I really, really didn't. And he's back. Loki's back. We're going to get a Thor and Loki reunion in this movie. Now this one shocked the hell out of me. Some people might say, no, it wasn't a shock because he was in Multiverse of Madness and this and that. But no, to me, I mean, like, just because he was in Multiverse of Madness, that means nothing because, spoiler alert for this list, Benedict Cumberbatch wasn't on this list. So if you told me that Patrick Stewart was going to be in Doomsday and not Doctor Strange, I'd be like, there's no way. But Patrick Stewart's back as Professor X, which absolutely shocked me. And to top it off, Ian McKellen's coming back as Magneto. Alan Cumming is coming back as Nightcrawler. Rebecca Romaine as Mystique. And James Marsden as Cyclops. Like, what the shit? That's insane. Channing Tatum as Gambit is coming back. I think I kind of expected that, especially with the positive reception he got from Deadpool and Wolverine. I'm like, that's a given. He's probably going to be coming back. So that wasn't a complete shock, and this one's not a shock. Pedro Pascal as Mr. Fantastic for Fantastic Four. That was a given. That was a given. If you're putting all the other Fantastic Four characters, some people might say it's a spoiler to say, oh, it means they're going to survive. Does anybody really think that they were going to die in their first movie? Like, come on. Like, that's not, I don't really consider that a spoiler or anything. So yeah, that's the Doomsday cast. Now, the ones I was shocked weren't on this list. Number one is Spider-Man. Tom Holland Spider-Man. I was shocked at first, although I think it makes more sense now that I think about it because from what I hear, Spider-Man 4, which is coming out in July next year, 2 months after Doomsday, that takes place during or before Doomsday, or takes place during Doomsday, if I'm not mistaken. So that makes sense. I understand that now. It was still kind of a shock to hear that we're not going to see him in it, but you never know what'll happen. Doctor Strange, as I mentioned, that was a huge shock, especially considering that we're getting Professor X back, and that completely caught me off guard. But that is what it is. And Chris Pratt as Star-Lord. I was shocked when I heard he wasn't coming back, especially at the end of Guardians 3, whenever it says Star-Lord will return. I was expecting we're going to see him in this. But we should keep in mind, though, too, this is just Doomsday. We're getting Secret Wars after this. So we're absolutely definitely going to see Strange in Secret Wars. We're going to see Spider-Man in Secret Wars. And we're going to see Star-Lord in Secret Wars. I have no doubt about those. I will be shocked if none of them are in it. I know some people were saying that they were shocked about Hugh Jackman. I was disappointed Hugh Jackman wasn't in it, or Ryan Reynolds. I think there is a strong possibility we are going to see them in Secret Wars, but there was a part of me that was maybe a little bit shocked because we got Magneto and then we got Professor X. I said, okay, it's a given. Hugh Jackman's going to be there. And he wasn't there. So I was kind of shocked, a little bummed out by that. But, we won't get too upset about that. I've always had my doubts that Hugh Jackman was going to be coming back, but we'll see what happens. And I think definitely, though, Secret Wars is probably a given. But anyways, that's my thoughts on the Doomsday cast. It's a great lineup, a lot of surprises. I'm sure, here's the thing, here's something we should note. Just because they didn't announce certain characters, that doesn't mean they're not going to be in it. I'm sure within the next little bit, we'll get some more announcements about who's going to be in it and stuff. This is kind of like what they know for sure and what they can say. I mean, like if Toby and Andrew pop up, I'm not, who knows if they might not want to spoil that. There might be certain things that they don't want people to spoil. Chris Evans, of course, wasn't on it. I wasn't shocked because now there's rumors that he's not in it after all, but you can't really trust what he says because that's Marvel. That's Marvel. If people say they're not coming back, they're probably coming back. But I think if he is in it, then I think they'll use that as a shock to surprise people. But anyways, be sure to let me know what was the biggest surprise, what was not surprising to you. Definitely be sure to let me know your thoughts in the comments and all that. Moving on to our next discussion topic, which is another casting topic. One of my favorite shows, all-time favorite shows, Malcolm in the Middle, is coming back this year. They have a 4-episode revival coming for Disney Plus. They haven't said when, but I think they're filming it soon. And we just got some casting news. The only news we had was that Franky Muniz, Bryan Cranston, and Jane Kasmerick were coming back to reprise their roles. We didn't hear any news about anyone else, and that was back in December. And a lot of the same writers are on the show again, which that makes me happy, knowing that the original crew is coming back. And so we got some news here about some casting. We got some good news and some bad news, or maybe not bad news, but I mean, it is what it is. This article is from Hollywood Reporter. Christopher Masterson, Justin Burfield, set returns in Malcolm in the Middle revival. Super excited for that. The Malcolm in the Middle revival at Disney Plus is getting most of the show's original family back together. Christopher Masterson and Justin Burfield have joined the 4-episode revival alongside their original series co-stars Franky Muniz, Bryan Cranston, Jane Kasmerick, and Kiana Madeira playing Malcolm's girlfriend. Caleb Ellsworth, Anthony Timpino, Vaughn Moray, and Keely Karsten have also signed on to the series. Masterson and Burfield will reprise their roles as Malcolm's older brothers, Francis and Reese. They're two of my, I think if I had my favorite characters, it would be Hal, Francis, and Reese. Would definitely be my 3 favorite characters in the show. I'm so glad that they're coming back. But Ellsworth Clark. So Caleb Ellsworth Clark is going to be playing Dewey, taking over the role from Eric Sullivan, who played Dewey in the 2000 to 2006 Fox series. Sullivan left show business after a role in the 2010 film 12. So it's a bummer that we're not getting the original Dewey back, but I hope people don't treat this like the Olsen twins situation with Fuller House. I get that it might be disappointing not to have him back, but at least with in this case they actually did replace him. They didn't recast Michelle in Fuller House. They just said she's off building her fashion empire, blah 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 blah, poking fun at them for what they're doing. So and you look at the casting. The new casting for just take a look at Eric Sullivan, who played Dewey in the original, versus Caleb Ellsworth Clark, who's playing him in the revival. It's almost like perfect. Like you can't get much better than that. So the people who might be a little pissed off that he didn't come back, like come on, like just it is what it is. He didn't want he's not into acting anymore. He was younger, you know what I mean. and I think people should just respect that. And so the fact that they did recast him, I'm happy with that. I am happy. Better than not having him there at all. And I think they nailed the casting too. I've never seen this guy's work, but I'm super excited to see what he brings to Dewey and how it compares. Timpano will play Jamie, the fifth child of Hal and Lois, who was a baby and toddler in the later seasons of the series. Murray plays Kelly, the family's youngest child, Karsten. Or Karsten, sorry. Murray plays Kelly, the family's youngest child. So that was, of course, in the series finale when we find out that Lois is pregnant again. It looks like she did have a girl in this one. Instead of having, following the family tradition, she ended up having a boy or a girl this time, which should be a lot of fun. And Karsten from the Fablemans will play Malcolm's daughter, Leah, who is like her dad, is scary, smart, but far more sensitive and emotional. Yeah, and then it just goes on to say, the 4 episodes will follow Malcolm and Leah as they're drawn into his family's chaos when Hal and Lois demand he show up for their 40th anniversary party. And then it talks about who's writing. All the original writers are coming back. Can't wait. This is going to be so good. I'm so friggin' excited. And if anything, I know if it is it going to surpass the original? Probably not. There's no way it's going to do that. But just to see where all these guys are all these years later is just going to be so much fun. I'm so stoked. And this is going to be so much fun. I just can't get over how excited I am for it. In terms of the Dewey thing, it is what it is. They recasted him. Life goes on. He didn't want to do it, and leave it at that. This is gonna be so much fun. Oh my, I just can't get over how happy I am that this is even happening, because there were times where I didn't think we were ever gonna see a Malcolm in the Middle revival. Not that it needed a revival, but it'd just be nice to see where everyone is now. And I know Bryan Cranston during Breaking Bad and stuff like that, he was saying that he'd love to do some more Malcolm in the Middle. And here we are. It took some time, but we're finally doing it again. So it's a lot of fun. But anyways, 25 years later, since Malcolm in the Middle first aired, it aired back in 2000, and we're here in 2025, and it's coming back for a revival. And they said they'll see what happens. They might continue it, they might not. We'll see how this goes. I think this will be a hit, though. Let's be real here. This is going to be a hit. I'm super stoked. But definitely be sure to let me know your thoughts. Is this a good idea? Is it a bad idea? Be sure to let me know what you think in the comments. And so we're going to call it for the show today, guys. I want to thank my guest, Danny Whitson. And thank you guys for listening to the show. If you liked it, be sure to leave us a nice review, rating, and all that stuff. Helps keep the podcast going and helps encourage the people behind the podcast, just being me. And the guests and the awesome guests who we have all the time. It wouldn't be this show wouldn't be what it is without them. So thank you guys for tuning in. We'll see you guys next time. Until then, this is Franky signing off. Have a great week, everybody.